Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. But then you two are at the center of the world. We'll get to that later. For those of you who are just dropping in, I was not in a bar fight or an accident. I had a skin cancer removed, and in a few days I can take the bandages off and you can see my scar. I think it took a big thing about size of a quarter there, and then cut down all the way down to here so they could take the skin and pull it up over the hole. I'm going to have a saber scar like a German count. I'll be called Count or Von Conley. I've been in a duel, but the only duels I'm in are Dharma duels on Facebook. Anyway, the title of this talk is Run Silent, Run Deep. Run Silent, Run. That was the name of a book. I think it turned into a movie. The one thing, my father, who was in the Navy during the war, he was gone most of my growing up life, but I remember he gave me a book on the accounts, the logs of the submarines in the Pacific. And there have been many movies made on these submarines and their adventures in the Pacific alone, destroying Japanese shipping. And I love submarine movies. And that book apparently made a huge impression on me. Must have been a young boy. Because when I dropped out of college, I joined the Navy and went into the submarines. And the submarine I was on was the USS Cabrera, which was an old diesel boat. You know, these are not nuclear boats, the diesel boats. I was fortunate enough to be on one of the last diesel electric boats because during that late 50s, 58, 59, 60, the nuclear fleet was growing, and the Nautilus and the Seawolf and all these different nuclear boats, and they were filling them up with crew members, you know. So basically my submarine, I was on it for 3.5 years, and sailors would come on and they would get qualified, you get your dolphins, and they would go to the next nuclear boat. I stayed. So I stayed there until I got out and got married, got a degree in English, and went to teach English, and yada yada. My voyage went on. But the point of this story is run silent, run deep. The amazing thing about submarine. Now, I was in an anti-submarine fleet stationed in Norfolk. This during the Cold War. And it had a carrier, the Valley Forge, and about 6 destroyers and 2 submarines and a bunch of planes on the carrier. And it was our duty to hunt and train to kill submarines, primarily Russian ones. So it was a very exciting time in the sense that there was always a Russian submarine out there. So I never did find any, but they were out there. But anyway, so the fleet, the surface fleet, the carrier, little destroyers running around, and the job of the 2 submarines was to provide the prey and the attacker. We would pretend to attack the carrier, and the destroyers would try to find us. Or the airplanes would be sonar planes. They would fly over. And so we were the prey for the training of the anti-submarine. You know, so we were always like out there trying to attack the carrier, trying not to get caught. You see, anyway, but the thing that I want to get in his run silent, run deep. And I remember on the old submarines, I don't know if the new ones have, but you had the ooga. The ooga, dive. And I remember my first night on the submarine, I was in a top bunk. It took a while before you got your own bunk, so you kind of like hot bunked. You slept on the vinyl covering of the other bunks, and I was sleeping there. And it was dive, and the ooga was in the room, and I sat up and hit my head on a pipe and went right back down to sleep. Dive, ooga, dive. And then when you were being pursued, you would run silent, run deep. you would go down to, of course, this was the old diesel, so the our test depth was 400 feet. I mean, these nuclear boats go down to 1,000. But if we went below 400 feet, you had to write up thing, because you were absolutely at 400 feet, everything. But if you went below, things could start to pop, valves, things. But even at 400 feet, it was an amazing thing, because you could be in a storm on the surface, and you're going in the waves of the surface, up and down, getting seasick, and you dive, and you go down through the currents of the ocean, through the underwater waves, finally you break through that into the silent space, and not even the teacup trembled. In Jurassic Park, when the teacup, boom, boom, and the teacup trembled. Run silent, run deep. Not even a teacup trembles. Silent and run deep. And up your hurricane up there, storm going on. And so this is the metaphor I'm working with right now, is that I use my submarine life as my life metaphor. I think we all have a life metaphor. You could be the son of a coal miner's daughter. That's a metaphor. You could be a truck driver's son, or you could be a truck driver, or you could be a plumber. All these are life metaphors. If you're a plumber, your life would be fixing other people's pipes. An electrician would be straightening the brain wires. In other words, your vocations, your passion, but what you do, it has metaphorical significance. So for me, the submarine is a metaphor for my spiritual practice. When I was in the submarines, and in the submarine life, you don't run around in the surface. I mean, you're always alone. You're always out there in the vast ocean. Little teeny, we call it a steel coffin, sitting there with the waves, washing up, or just almost, kind of half submerged and half on the surface, and nothing but vast space, but around 360 degrees, vast ocean. You see, you're very alone. And at night, the waves are not down there, they're up there. The waves are up there. And it's pitch black. And the white foam reflects the water. Anyway. But so the whole idea of the submarine was that we were part of a fleet, and yet we were not in the fleet. It's kind of like being in the world and not of the world. I was in the fleet, but not of the fleet. We were outside, free from the fleet, yet we were in the fleet. So we're part of a fleet, but we were not part of a fleet. It was kind of an ambiguous thing. And so is the submarine. You see, the submarine is like an amphibian. It's a surface ship, and it's an undersea boat, called the submarine a boat, undersea boat. Now, for the surface ship, what it fears is under the sea. You don't want to go to Davy Jones' locker. You see, the surface ship has to stay on the surface. Under the sea is death. So the submarine can be on the surface like another ship, and it can go along with the fleet, like that. No, there's a submarine, hi. And then, wait a minute, where did he go? He went to Davy Jones' locker. He went into death. He went to run silent, run deep. Where did he go? Ooh, he comes up. Oh, there he is. He's on the surface. Hi. Dive. Where did he go? You see. So there's a mystical quality here, 1 minute you're here, the next minute you're formless. No, there's no, I don't know. He was here a minute ago. He has no form, So the submarine is kind of like Zen for me. Its form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Form is being on the surface. A form. If you're on the surface, you got form. English mysteries, they do this. Somebody picks somebody up. He's got a record. Oh, he's got form. I love that. So if you're on the surface, if you're in the conscious mind, If you're in the consciousness, you got form. Consciousness cannot perceive the formless. Only form. So if you're formless, whoop, you're empty, you see. To the surface mind, you're gone, you're formless. So the submarine is ambiguous. It's an amphibian. On the surface, gone. Here, gone. In, out. The surface mind is the outside, and the depth of the ocean is the inside. So we kind of like have a juxtaposition here of the inside, which is the whole ocean, and the outside, which is what we see, is just on the surface with the little waves of the mind. You see, the waves of the mind. It can be storm, oh my God, I'm getting sick, or oh, it's so calm today and so beautiful. Or, oh my God, I'm sick. Oh my God, this is so nice. Let's go for a dip. You see, but underneath, you see, there is no waves. There is no noise. There is no disturbance. It's run silent, run deep. It's nothing. In other words, it's a death to the surface mind. So metaphorically, the submarine goes from life to death and back up. And at will, it can go up or down, you see. So we're kind of like trying to get a grasp of our mind here. So we all live in a conscious mind, on the surface mind. We all go with the fleet. Oh, I go with the Presbyterian fleet. Oh, I know, I go with the atheist fleet. Oh, I go with the non-dual fleet. Oh, I go with the Zen fleet. Or politically, oh, I go with the left fleet. I go with the right fleet. I go with the anarchist fleet. We all pick a fleet. It goes deeper. We got a gender. I'm a male. I'm a female. Oh, no, I'm going to be both. Still with the fleet. So everything in the mind is in a fleet of some kind or another, big one or little one. Even my family is a fleet. You get in a marriage, that's a fleet in the sense that you're in a relationship, two forms running together, two ships running together. So everything in the surface mind, in the conscious mind, runs in some kind of a fleet, a collective. And that collective has its own mind. So if you're a Presbyterian, you have a Presbyterian mind, not a Catholic mind. If you're an atheist, you have an atheistic mind, not a Christian mind. If you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or Zen or whatever, that's a mind, that's a collective, that's a fleet, you see. Has form, you see. But one thing the collective mind, the surface mind, fears is going beneath the surface where there's no mind, where there's no collective, there's no form. You don't have anything. In other words, you've dropped your identity with the fleet. You've left the fleet. You've left the world. You left the family. And we're all doing that. We all want, I want to get out of this family. I want to get out of this religion. I want to go be a I want to yada yada, change my fleet. So we're constantly changing fleets. But we never go beneath the surface. We never run silent, run deep, you see. Don't go there. That's death. It's death to the conscious mind. Now, what is the conscious mind? But the discriminating mind. The discriminating mind is very useful, but only with limitations. The discriminating mind is the mechanical mind. If you're a mechanic, you have a very good discriminating mind. You can look at that engine and you can discriminate. Tell the difference between what's working and what isn't. Well, this thing is no good. Get rid of it. So the discriminating mind is very good for detecting problems. It's very good for navigating. You can't go to the market without the discriminating mind because you got to pick between this apple and that apple. You can't go in the fleet without the discriminating mind because you got to go with the fleet this way and you don't want to go with that way and leave the fleet. So there's don't go that way, stay this way. Tells the difference. Discriminating mind discriminates between this and that. So it requires duality. It requires two, right and wrong. Maybe when Adam and Eve bit the apple, what they did was create the discriminating mind. And they got kicked out of the garden. Before they bit the apple, they were run silent, run deep. There was no discrimination. There was no mind. But then they created Because you have to, if you got a world, you got to have a discriminating mind in order to navigate through it. And you can't go alone totally. You have to belong to something. You have to belong to your original. Our first family, of course, is the mother, the child and the mother. And from that child and the mother, the whole fleet is born. They say, when they, like when they would, I didn't see it, but this a video of the cops beating up the guy, and as he was dying, he was crying for his mother. What does that mean? Well, you're crying for the original source, the child and the mother. The mother is the source of the child, and that's the original relationship. And it all grows from that, but it's all on the surface. So what is the source? Well, the submarine, metaphorically speaking, you see, dives back and leaves the surface of discrimination and goes to the source, into the silent, vast ocean that has no depth or no form, you see. It's only the waves that are forms. Run silent, run deep, no form. Empty. Still. Silence. Who am I, you see? I got no form. Yet at the same time, there is form. So this is the problem. The discriminating mind says, oh, you just got to be on the surface. You just got to obey and follow and belong to some fleet, you see. And the other mind, the deeper mind says, no, I'm more than that. I'm deeper than that. I got to find the source. So, but instead of diving down alone, it just finds another fleet that says, no, I'm the source. So we got fleets firing at each other, each one saying, I'm the source, I'm the one. No, I'm the one. No, I'm the one. Bam, bam, bam. But all the while, the spiritual seeker wants to dive deep, meditation, alone, to find the true source, to find the wellspring of the surface mind. You see, the surface mind, the conscious mind, is the surface of awareness. Awareness is the deep, the run silent, run deep. Awareness makes no noise. Awareness makes no movement. Awareness has no form. Not even a coffee cup stirs. Not even a teacup jiggles, you see. Silent, deep. But at the same time, the source of the ocean is the surface. So you got the skin of the orange and the juice. You got the waves of the mind and you got the source. They're different, but they can't be separated. You can't take the source, the deep, away from the surface. Now here's the difference. If you're on the surface, you can refuse or avoid the deep. But if you're at the deep, you know that you're also the surface. So the spiritual path, the way of the formless, the way of the submarine, metaphorically speaking, is to dive into the source of the formless. Got no form. But at the same time, you got form, you see? They're different. The surface is different from the deep, but you can't separate them. You can't take the surface away from the deep away from the surface. You can't take the inside of the cup away from the outside of the cup. They're not, you can't separate them. That's the one that is two. The one that is two, the two is the surface and the outside and the inside. The one is transcendent of the two. The one is creative. The one is creative. So the Zen I practice, and I guess you could say teaching, or demonstrating. I'm really not teaching, I'm really demonstrating. In these talks, I'm demonstrating creativity. I'm demonstrating what it's like to be both the source and the surface at the same time. It's creative. It's new. It's fresh. I didn't hear that before. Well, that's a great metaphor. That makes things a little clearer, you see. So I'm using the metaphor of my life experience in a diesel-electric submarine as a metaphor for your spiritual practice, or the way to awaken creativity. Now, awakening creativity doesn't mean you're going to produce great works of art. It just means that when you go get a cup of coffee, that's creative. You're doing it for the first time. When you meet when you go out in your town, the creative way of going into your town is seeing it for the first time. Not, seen that before, and I want to get out of this town, it's boring. No. When you see something for the first time, it's creative. You're creating the town, you're creating the moment, you're creating the coffee, you're creating everything when you see it for the first time because you are doing it. You see? The knowing and the world are different, but can't be separated. You're empty and the world is formed, but they can't be separated. You and the world are different, but you cannot be separated from the world. Anyway, then the deep can be separated from the surface. So dive into that. Dive into that. Run silent. Run deep. You're okay. Thanks for dropping in.